Hello, this is Joyce Chow from MBN. Welcome. We're here waiting for the Huntington Art Gallery reopening after a $20 million renovation. The Huntington, known for its botanical gardens and art gallery, wow, are quite amazing.
I want to welcome everyone too. It's a really fabulous moment for the Huntington and for all the people who've been involved in this project. You're going to see a lot of smiles today. And the reason why Huntington and Henry Edwards Huntington. The Huntington family is an upstate New York family. The founder of the family fortune was C.P. Huntington, who was one of the big four who built the Transcontinental Railroad. C.P. Huntington had no children of his own, and therefore the children of some of his siblings worked for him. And one of those children was Henry Edwards Huntington, who by 1900 had become C.P. Huntington's right-hand man, Executive Vice President of Southern Pacific. You may remember that Southern Pacific owned most of California, was also involved in all sorts of activities. C.P. Huntington died in 1900 unexpectedly. Arabella Huntington was C.P.'s wife, and Arabella and Henry inherited the bulk of C.P.'s estate. Henry loved Southern California. At that point, Southern California was quite undeveloped. He was living in San Francisco. He moved here, and he began to develop Southern California. Indeed, the shape of Southern California today is very much a reflection of Henry Edwards Huntington. He owned huge swaths of Southern California. He developed land and subdivision tracts, Huntington Beach. All of the Huntington names of Southern California come from Henry Edwards Huntington. Arabella was a widow, although Arabella and Henry were of the same age. And 13 years after C.P. died, Arabella would marry Henry in Paris. They are both extraordinary characters. This is just a brief introduction. But Arabella's interest in art was remarkable. She built great art collections, and it was she that insisted that Henry, who was a bibliophile and loved books and manuscripts, should have a great art collection because he was a successful entrepreneur. And so the wonderful British collection that you see here is very much Arabella encouraging Henry to collect British art. But there's another special feature today that we want to underscore, and that is for the first time, Arabella's collection, which Henry built after she died to honor her, which is French and Italian art, is also here. This setting, and you can then judge for yourself, we think Henry would be very, very proud. We think that this is exactly what he did. And blow your socks away when you see a portrait gallery. It is absolutely stunning. Really beyond, I think, anything that we could imagine.
Principal strategic intention has been to bring back into the house the sense of the house as a house, the house that Mr. Huntington designed with Myron Hunt, his architect, heavily influenced by Arabella during the quite long years of their active courtship. We know that Arabella was actually involved in discussions about the design of the house with Myron Hunt in New York as early as 1908. So she's deeply present throughout the whole place. We want to bring back a sense of the founder, therefore. We want to bring back the sense of Arabella as an important part of his life, and we are doing that principally on the ground floor. As you go into the house, you will see, I hope, that the ground floor gives a much more accurate sense of a series of rooms as potentially private spaces in which Mr. and Mrs. Huntington could carry on a conversation without being overheard by their staff, in which they could have guests to sit and gossip, to bring back a sense of that sort of life. The second floor, however, where we've opened up a whole lot of spaces, where the original architecture and design of the house was much less well preserved, you will go from room to room. All the spaces carefully designed by Steve Farnett and his colleagues are, I hope, scaled to the building as a whole. In other words, they're not just great big galleries as you would get in a 19th century art museum. They are room-sized spaces, but they function as galleries in hopefully what you will see as a modern art museum. Objects will be seen for their own sake rather than part of. And we'll see the Huntington as a balanced display between the British and the continental European in a way that you have never been able to see our art collections, with a series of themes of intense interest to art and design historians, dealing with, for example, changes in social practice in conditions of rising prosperity in Britain in the 18th century, in the second quarter of the 18th century, let us say. People start drinking tea, they start gambling in the house, they start making music in the house. A whole lot of these new social practices arise, and we look at the response by the design industries, the luxury goods industries, ceramics, silver, furniture making, producing specialist objects for that changing nature of demand and changing nature of social life. So that's basically the strategy. Steve also mentioned the Thornton Portrait Gallery, named for Chuck and Geneva Thornton. It is hugely different, I would say, so that the walls are dark green, the floor has, I think, a pleasant sheen to it, but all the light in the room is concentrated on the surfaces of the paintings and the sculptures that you will see in there. I think you can see the great works of art in that room. It's the portraits, the great full-length portraits. And I think you will be able to see them as you've never seen them before. I hope you will enjoy the house very much indeed. I hope you've enjoyed meeting here. This is the loggia. This is the outdoor drawing room of the house. A delightful space. We have brought it back into use, inviting the public to use these wicker or rattan chairs and to enjoy the orchids and the other plants that have been here. It's intended to evoke the cultivated and lovely lifestyle that Mr. Huntington imagined for himself when he built this house, and we hope the public will enjoy it as much as they enjoy our newly formulated interiors. Let me just